Okay, Kevin,
Hello.
lovely to see you today. How did you first become involved with PPGs? How did you hear
Um,
about them?
how did I hear about them? I first came across them when I lived in Somerset, and I had a conversation one day with a member of staff at the surgery who mentioned a PPG. I had no idea what it was. He told me it was a patient participation group, and essentially I said, "What's that?" And they said, "Oh, some people come in from time to time and talk to the practice manager about the surgery." And I thought, okay, I'll find out a bit more. So I had a chat with the practice manager who told me a bit more. Talk about that in a minute, perhaps. And I decided to join and give it a go. And I got quite involved in that over a period of time. And then when I moved to East Sussex, I naturally joined the PPG that was in the very early stages of its life here. So that's really what got me going.
So, what was your motivation for joining?
Um, I've had health problems at various stages in my life, like most people. I've got friends and family who are in health and social care. So I've always been interested in what people do and how they do it. I've been very conscious that the world of health seems to have got ever more complicated and more difficult for doctors in recent times. And at the same time, GPs and surgeries seem to do lots and lots more things and more different things. So it seemed to me that by being part of this conversation as a patient and with other patients, and the opportunity to talk to doctors and staff and admin staff in surgeries, I could make a contribution to how surgeries develop their services and that they listen to patients and that they can make changes to improve what they do by patients being, I suppose you call it critical friends, but being partners in the conversation about how everything works and that it works for patients especially.
And was it easy to join the PPG? Did you have to be recruited or voted in?
um, well, in Somerset, it was, "Do you want to come along?" And that was it. When I came here, it was a different scenario because the surgery had very belatedly begun to create a PPG. I mean, this is going back 5 years. In fact, there should have been a PPG in the surgery best part of 10 years ago. Um, but they had got on the wagon quite late. They were getting started. They had 3 members and the practice manager, and they were looking around and were keen to recruit. So basically, again, I was invited to a meeting. The way that happens now is very different. We have a leaflet that tells patients about what the PPG is. They're invited to fill in a short form and tell us that they're interested. One of us then has a chat with them, and quite often we'll actually have a meeting with people to see what their interest is, and particularly to check that it's a genuine interest, not that they are somebody who has a problem or a complaint, because PPGs do not have anything to do with complaints. There is a formal national process for that, and that's not something for patient groups to get involved in. So from time to time, we have to say to people, no, there's a proper route for what you want. This is how to do it, show them the paperwork and say, not a PPG matter. But if it's somebody who's genuinely interested, whatever background they come from, whatever age they are, but the fact they're interested and they want to be part of the conversation and are prepared to do a bit more than just come and sit and listen, we're delighted to have them.
Excellent. So what sort of things do you get involved in as a PPG with the surgery?
Okay, well, I suppose I should say at this point, my experience of this and other people's experience of this will be significantly different. Every surgery that has a PPG is different. It's customer base, if you like. The patients that live in its area are very different. They have different needs, although obviously the basic needs are essentially the same. But the things that patients are worried about in a very deprived urban area are very different from patients of a surgery in a relatively wealthy rural village. And interestingly, the two surgeries I've been involved with fit those two categories. So what patients may be most interested in may be different, and the problems that the surgery faces in terms of delivering services may be different to some extent. Obviously, there are lots of things that are the same everywhere. So that's a consideration. So if I give you some examples of what we do at the moment, some of what we do is driven by a biannual survey of patients where we ask all our patients to fill in questionnaires or talk to us about what they like, what they don't like. There are questions about particular things that are going on at the moment. There are questions about things we think are a good idea and see what they think that they might find helpful. And that's a good starter for us because it gives us lots and lots of information. Although analysing all of that, and we get quite high response rate from that, is a big task, which again, a couple of people volunteer to do to collate it all, and then we put together a report, which then goes to all the staff in the surgery and all the PPG members, and is published on our pages on our surgery website. So all that's public domain and is shared, and that sharing is a big part of what we do, so people know what's going on and what people think. We also go out and give talks in community groups about the surgeries, and we work with other voluntary organisations to tell them about our surgery and what we do, and what the surgery is doing and what the surgery is trying to do. And at the same time, we meet regularly as a PPG with our practice manager. And we also meet on a quarterly basis with all our GPs and our practice manager as well to talk with them about strategically where they're going. So alongside that, we've got all sorts of projects. So we recently set up a rheumatoid arthritis group for all the patients in our practices who suffer from that or look after people who have that. Basically, the GPs agreed this with us, and they talked to patients when they were in touch with the patients and said, we're thinking of setting up a group. Are you interested? Can we pass on your details? Because with data protection, we can't be given any patient's details without consent. And that group then gradually formed and meets on a regular basis to talk about their issues, where they get help, and supporting each other. We would like to set up similar groups, having trialed that one for people with diabetes or pre-diabetic. We would like to do something like that for young families. We have played around with various other options. So some of this is still in the early days. We certainly want to set up a healthy living group and a mindfulness group. One of our GPs is really interested in mindfulness and has been doing lots on that, and we want to publicise that some more. We did a little unlikely sounding project recently on planting trees. We got the opportunity to order some trees from a voluntary agency nationally. and we got a list of all the things we could get. We put that out to patients quite widely, and got lots of people who said, "Oh, I'd like this or I'd like that," and we ordered them all up. And we then set up a system for distributing those to our community. And the point was, A, it was about getting involved in the community. B, it was about doing something outdoors that involved some exercise and engage with members of the community who would help them to plant the trees, which also then was a link in with some other community groups. And really, we saw it as a well-being exercise as well. So that would have been a great deal of fun, other than it all happened just as we were going into the first lockdown. So we had to do it in a somewhat um, removed way, but we still did it in spite of the odds, which was lovely.
Fabulous.
Um, Another project which we've been involved with all the surgeries in our area of East Sussex, which is Hastings, Rotherham, Bexhill, was we set up work with a consultant from Conquest Hospital, Dr. Mucci, on aging well in older age. It was a very big project. It involved about 20 surgeries and their PPGs. All this work was done through PPGs. We set up a series of presentations. We ran 3 presentations initially and 4 or 5 others since, to an audience that's now approaching 2,000 people.
Wow.
We have worksheets and things for people that were developed out of that. And really that has crossed over into all sorts of other health issues, and a substantial report that was written by PPG members from across our surgeries and submitted to health and GP surgeries and the clinical commissioning group. So that was sort of a bigger group and an example of us all working together. So all the time when we meet, it's where do we go from here? What's hot? What's current? And how do we do it? And it's an ongoing conversation. So what you're going to ask me next, I know, is this sounds like a really big commitment.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
thinking that.
and it kind of depends on what you're interested in and what you want to do. So we've got people of a variety of backgrounds in our particular PPG, which is lovely and actually very important. We've got a good gender mix as well. What we struggle with is an age mix, and virtually every PPG has that problem too. Most of us are of a certain age and either retired or doing a variety of voluntary work. So we're always looking for younger people, working age people, and young people. So according to your particular circumstances, it may vary how much you want to do. So some people will volunteer and say, well, I will chair the group, I'll be vice chair, I'll take notes of the meetings, or I'll help with communications to patients, or I'll help with updating the website. Oh, that's something else we did. We updated the surgery website when we first really got going with the practice manager, completely rewrote whole sections of it and reorganized it. And we've just been involved in the design from scratch of our completely new website.
Wow.
So that was a really interesting piece of work. Um, so some people may take on particular responsibilities. And so, for example, I talked earlier on about the rheumatoid arthritis group. 2 people on the group have a particular interest in that, one of them because she has it, another one because she's a carer for somebody who has it. So those people decided to organise that group. Other people have joined me and other members of the group in going out and doing presentations for our local council, and some community groups and rather voluntary action and things like that. So being a member of the group doesn't involve a vast amount of time. We meet every 6 weeks, though that's been difficult recently. We had a gap at the beginning of COVID. We're now doing meetings online, and that will go on to other things. And we're thinking about going back to face, we hope, quite soon. Some of us take on bigger responsibilities and are involved with the other surgeries, in my case in rural Rother directly, which is a new primary care network. And we work across all the surgeries in our area. And we've also been doing things to support COVID, delivering, collecting and delivering from our surgery pharmacy, prescriptions to people, working with other voluntary groups that have been helping out during COVID with communications, with getting messages to people, being involved in phone call support with people as well. So that takes as much time as you've got, really. And some people spending a great deal of time on that, in some cases, some days a week. Other
Wow.
people come to meetings, do some particular jobs like helping with the tree project, which might have been a few hours here and there, and then helping people with distribution and planting. So it's as big or as small as you want to make it. If you're really interested, you can get involved beyond our local area. So we have in our area, for Hastings and Rother, we have a PPG forum, and we try to get 2 or perhaps 3 people from each surgery in our area. We've got it's just changed because some surgeries are combining. I think we've got about 18 practices in our area now. We try and get 2 or 3 people to come to a meeting every 3 months. Those people help set the agenda. Some of them are involved in running that forum where we get together. We have input from all sorts of other agencies. We talk about what's going on with us, what we want to do about it. And that gives us a route to feed into local policy through the clinical commissioning group and through the NHS. That then goes to a whole East Sussex forum, which again, some of us are involved in, and that looks at it from a third of the county point of view. And then we're part of the whole county point of view. And that then also feeds into government and NHS England. So you can do it at whatever level you like with as much time as you've got, or you can do it at the level of actually, I want to help out in the surgery when help is needed. I want to help design the colour scheme and what sort of chairs we should have in the surgery. And I'm reporting there's a sticking door which is making patients with wheelchairs have a problem with access. So it really goes from as big as you want to make it and as strategic as you want to make it to day-to-day basic things, keeping in contact with our patients and helping out when there's an opportunity or a need. So really, it's interesting. It's as big as you want to make it, and it varies according to what your particular community need and how you would like to see your surgery connect up with the rest of your community. Because the real bottom line is the surgery doesn't operate on its own. It links with social care, community connectors, housing, community organisations, and all of that is going to be connecting up in April next year with something called Integrated Community Services, which is all of us who support the public in all sorts of different ways, working better together.
That's fantastic.
Will that do?
Absolutely. It's huge, isn't it? It could be huge.
It can be as small as you like or as big
Yeah.
as